Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. I am Farrah and today my group would like to present the inflation and unemployment issues in the country that we have chosen, which is India. Before we start, I will pass to Haziqah to introduce the members of the group.
I will introduce the members of our group. First, we got Nurin binti Zainul Akramin, and we got Farrah binti Azlam, and me, Haziqah binti Muhammad Rahim. I will start the present with introduction. The purpose of the presentation is to see the inflation and unemployment problem in India. The reason why we choose the country India is that the concept of inflation is the rate of increase in prices over the given period. Inflation is typically a broad measure, such as the overall increase in prices or the increase in the cost of living in the country. Besides, unemployment occurs when someone is willing and able to work but does not have a paid job. The unemployment rate is the percentage of people in the labor force who are unemployed. Consequently, measuring the unemployment rate requires identifying who is in the labor force. India's boom times seem set for a replay in 2007, driven for industries and services sector expansions. Through high inflation in 2006 raises doubt by overheating in the world's second fastest growing economy.
I am very excited to get an opportunity to present about India. India, being the seventh largest country in the world, is famous for its rich culture and heritage. India celebrated its 70 years of democracy on 26 January. It has the largest constitution in the world and strongly believes in its slogan, Unity in Diversity. When we explore more about India, we can find that people from various religions stay unitedly in this country. It takes pride in celebrating and respecting festivals as well as the ritual of all the religions, namely Hinduism, Islam, Sikhism, and Christianity. From celebrating 73 years independence, India starts to believe in secularism, which is give equal rights to all citizens of the country. In conclusion, India, being a developing country, has currently emerged in the field of economics, science, sports, and technology. Apart from being the second most populous country in the world, India also stands seventh in industry and fifth in economy. Thus, we can say that India has a wide range of cuisines, festivals, and diverse cultures, making it a great tourist destination. Last but not the least, I would like to say that I am extremely proud of India. Through my presentation on India background, I would like to convey to everyone the message to love, respect, and follow the rich culture of your country. So, I would like to continue my presentation about population in India. Based of the end of 2007, India have a population of 1.2 billion people, which represent an increase of 17.8 million people compared to 2006. Due to the information published on the website, India is number 2 in the world ranked among 196 countries. In addition, the male population is greater with 615 million men, which represent 52.03% of the total, compared to 567 million or 52.03% of women. Moreover, India also has a high population density with 360 people per square kilometers, and it was in position 118th in our ranking of density population in 2007. Right now, we will discuss more about national income. We often hear the GDP in India. The national income of India is the sum total of income everyone earns in India. GDP and GNP are also parts of this national income. GDP is the gross domestic product, while GNP is a gross national product. Further, the savings rate and investment in the economy are the determinantal factors in the national income of India. For a nation, the value of the final goods and service it produces in terms of money for the residents living in the country is the national income. So, what is national income? It is generally for that particular fiscal year or financial year. So, we will continue the presentation about main sector contributors, which is India's economy is among those that is expanding quickly with a GDP growth rate at 10.6% in 2010 and 7.2% in 2011. The second largest employer in India, the service sector, plays a significant role in GDP and growth. Due to its transition from agricultural to the service sector, it has attracted attention on a global scale. According to Kocha in 2006, India was a negative outlier in terms of the share of service in value added in 1981 when compared to other rising markets. But after 1990s, the service sector expanded, and in 2000, India became a positive outlier. The reforms of the 1990s, which resulted in privatization and the elimination of FDI, have been connected to the expansion of the service industry in India.
Thank you, Farrah Batrisha. Next, I will talk about the national debt of India. India's external debt outstanding at the end of December 2007 was $201.4 billion, reflecting a rise of $10.3 billion over the quarters, as compared to the level of $169.7 billion at the end of March 2007. India's external debt at the end of December 2007 increased by $31.8 billion. When valuation changed due to the depreciation of US dollar vis-a-vis major international currencies and Indian rupees, accounted for $1.1 billion over the increase during the quarters and $6 billion during the April to December 2007. The increase in external debt was mainly brought about the combination borrowing and short-term debt. Based on original maturity, long-term debt was accounted for 82.6% and short-term debt comprised for 17.4%. Long-term debt rose by $6.2 billion to $166.2 billion and short-term debt by $4 billion to $35.2 billion over the quarters. Amongst the components of long-term debt commercial, borrowing increased by $4.9 billion, which is 9.4% to $57 billion, while NRI deposits declined by 1.5%, which is US dollar 0.6 billion to US dollar 43 billion. Multilateral debt, bilateral debt, and export credit increased marginally to reach US $1,037.9 billion, US dollar 70.3 billion, and US dollar 8.9 billion, respectively, at the end December 2007. Group debt continued to remain around the level of US dollar 2 billion. Under short-term debt, while trade-related credits rise by around US dollar 4 billion. FII debt investment in government papers rise by US dollar 262 million over the quarters. Furthermore, in the endeavor to improve the analytical content of the report, the external debt stock in end December 2007 is provided in terms of residual maturity as well. For the first time in the quarter's debt data release, based on residual maturity, long-term debt accounted for 64% of total debt at the end of December 2007. Short-term debt by scheduled maturity, consisting of principal repayments due during the one-year reference period under the medium and long-term loans, and short-term debt with an original maturity of 1 year or less, accounted for 36% of the total external debt. The share of government debt in total external debt stood 26.3%, which is US dollar 53 billion. Correspondingly, the share of non-government, in other words, private debt, was 73.7%, which is US dollar 148.5 billion. At the end December 2007, India's foreign exchange reserve, which include foreign currencies assets of Reserve Bank of India (GOLs), SDRs, and reserve tranche position in the International Monetary Fund (IMF), stood as US dollar 275.3 billion, providing a cover of 137% of total external debt, while the foreign currency assets of the RBI at US dollar 266.6 billion provided a cover of 132%. Next, I will pass to Nurin Jaslina.
Thank you, Haziqah. Next, I will continue with our main discussion for today. So there are four main discussions, which are an overview of India's inflation and unemployment issue, monetary and fiscal policies, the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the inflation and unemployment in India, and lastly, impact of the government stimulus package on the national debt. So without wasting more time, let me explain an overview of the inflation in India first. So before we move on to inflation in India, let me explain a bit about what is inflation first. Inflation is defined as a persistent and sustained increase in the aggregate or average price level of goods and services in an economy. In other words, inflation implies that there is an increase in the cost of living that causes lower purchasing power. This chart is the inflation rate in each month of 2007 in India. In 2007, the inflation rate in India was 5.80%, while in 2006, the inflation rate is 6.37%. The difference between the 2006 and 2007 inflation rates is, in 2007, it is less than 0.57 than 2006. When 2007, the inflation rate decreased, which is a bit good for the country, compared to their inflation rate in 2006. There are two causes of inflation in India, which is due to cost push inflation and demand pull inflation. We can see demand pull inflation happen when there is a high increase in vegetable prices or when the storage of vegetables in the markets takes the prices to the new heights. Next, cost push inflation. This can be seen when prices go up whenever there is a hike in petroleum products. This is because petroleum is an important component in many manufactured items and it is an essential fuel for road transport. It adds to the transportation costs, so prices in general tend to rise. Next, move on to unemployment. Unemployment occurs when people who are in the working age group are able and willing to work but are unable to find a suitable job. From this chart, we can compare the unemployment trend from 2006 to 2007. In India, there are 6 types of unemployment, which are frictional unemployment, seasonal unemployment, structural unemployment, technological unemployment, and cyclical unemployment. Frictional unemployment is when unemployment that arises when workers search for new jobs or transition from one job to another. This happens when the economy is considered at full employment. For example, a person is frictionally unemployed if they voluntarily leave or are fired from their job. Secondly, seasonal unemployment. Seasonal unemployment occurs when people are unemployed at particular times of the year when demand for labor is lower than usual. In India, seasonal unemployment is common when it comes to industries that are producing seasonal goods. For example, in India, during festive season or the wedding season in India, unemployment rates decrease as a result of the demand for labor that can help with all the arrangements required during the various rituals taking place. Thirdly, structural unemployment. Structural unemployment is a category of unemployment arising from the mismatch between the jobs available in the market and the skills of the available workers in the market. In India, there are a lot of people that do not have a job because of a lack of requisite skills and due to poor education levels, and it becomes hard to train them. Fourthly, technological unemployment is unemployment that results from the introduction of new technology into the economy. This is caused by the replacement of workers by machines or the automation of tasks that were once done by workers. Lastly, cyclical unemployment. Cyclical unemployment is unemployment that causes by changes in business cycles, that is economic upturn or downturn. This type of unemployment is affected by economic recession or expansion. In cyclical, the ones who are affected are real estate agents, architects, and loan agents. Finish with the overview of India's inflation and unemployment. Let us move on to the monetary and fiscal policies. In India, there are 2 policies, which is fiscal policy and monetary policy. For monetary policy, they would include the cash reserve ratio (CRR) and statutory liquidity ratio (SLR) to control the money supply in the economy. Meanwhile, a fiscal policy includes a reduction in government expenditure and increase in taxes. Supply management implies controlling the volume of supply of goods and their distribution system. The government uses fixation of maximum prices, a system of dual prices, maintenance of buffer stocks, special measures for the production of oilseeds and edible oils, setting up of public distribution system (PDS), control over private trade in food grains, and adoption of open general. Let us move on to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on inflation and unemployment in India. Between February and April 2020, the share of households that experienced a fall in income shot up to nearly 46%. Inflation rates on goods and services, including food products and fuel, were expected to rise later this year. Social distancing resulted in job losses, specifically those within Indian society's lower economic strata. Several households terminated domestic help services, essentially an unorganized monthly paying job. Most Indians spend a large amount of time engaging in household chores themselves, making it the most widely practiced lockdown activity. As of May 2022, the unemployment rate in India was recorded at nearly 7%, a decrease from the previous month. While the unemployment rate had significantly declined throughout 2021, since having peaked in April 2020, the breakout of new coronavirus variants coupled with recurring lockdowns resulted in a fluctuating trend of unemployment gripping the nation.
Next, I will tell about the impact of government stimulus package on national debt. A stimulus package is a package of economic measures of government involved to stimulate a floundering economy. The objective of a stimulus package is to invigorate the economy and prevent or reverse a recession by boosting employment and spending. The impact of fiscal stimulus on growth can be assessed directly from the components of GDP, the contribution of government final consumption expenditure, GFCE, and public sector capital formation to GDP growth. A more comprehensive assessment, however, can be conducted through time-varying fiscal multiplier, as the compact materializes over several quarters. In India, an increase in public expenditure is found to be more effective than tax cuts, whereas for dealing with a situation of economic overheating, tax hikes works better than cutbacks in expenditure. Bhatt and Sharma, 2021. Again, this backdrop, using a three-variable structural vector auto-regression SVAR model, Benchar and Farrah 2002 with annual nominal growth in tax revenue. Government expenditure and GDP for the periods 1981 to 1982 to 2090-202 general government, center and state combined. Fiscal multiplies for the total expenditure and its components are estimated with relevant controls. The estimate impact multiplies show that only capital expenditure leads to proportionately higher increase in GDP. However, the revenue expenditure and total expenditure multiply are less than 1 in the range of 0.72 to 0.84, which corroborates the limited effectiveness of fiscal activism in reviving and reconstructing the Indian economy post-COVID. To identify conditions under which a fiscal stimulus can be exceptionally as opposed to conditions which a fiscal consolidation can be exceptionally, time-varying supplies need to be estimated. Next, I will pass to Nurin Jaslina.
Thank you, Haziqah. In conclusion, based on our analysis of India, the inflation and unemployment in 2007, it is quite bad. And if the trend of inflation decreases, the percentage of decrease is not much. In this case, the government should take an action regarding the bigger issue of their country, which is year by year, the unemployment issue is still increasing. The government should expand job opportunities so that citizens can get a job and can reduce the unemployment and poverty rate in their country. That's all from us. Thank you.